I used to think there wasn't a damn thing on this earth that could scare me off. I was 28 years old guy. Strong, experienced, and maybe a little too sure of myself. I'd been hiking sections of the trail for years, knew its moods, its seasons. But there's a piece of trail near the Tennessee-North Carolina border that I won't set foot on again. It was early October, cool but not cold, and the leaves were just starting to turn. I'd been on the trail for about a week, making my way southbound, taking my time. That day, I'd passed Iron Mountain Shelter around noon and decided to cut off the trail a few miles later, maybe 3 or 4, near an old logging road I'd read about in a guidebook. The forest out there is thick and old, trees grow close and tall, and the trail itself can disappear if you're not paying close attention. I wasn't scared. I'd gone solo many times. I liked being alone. Out there, your thoughts stop racing. Everything gets quiet. I found a flat patch about 60 yards off the old logging road. Made camp. Cooked some beans and rice on my little stove. The forest was quiet, almost too quiet. The sun was just starting to dip below the ridge when I decided to stretch my legs and walk back toward the road. Maybe check out a creek I'd passed on the way in. I didn't bring much. Just my flashlight and my knife. Figured I'd be back before dark. About halfway down the slope, maybe a third of a mile from my tent, I caught awful smell like rot and blood. I paused, thinking maybe a deer had died nearby or a wild animal had taken something down. I crept a little closer, keeping quiet. That's when I saw it. All I could make out was a hunched shape, crouched low beside the road, tearing into what looked like a deer carcass. I thought it might be a black bear. I'd seen plenty of them before, and I knew how to keep my distance. But when I raised my flashlight and shined it on the thing, Jesus! I swear it wasn't a bear. My breath caught in my throat. My legs locked up. It was tall. Even crouched, it looked massive, over 6 feet, easy. Its limbs were long, rail-thin, but sinewy. The fur was jet black, matted with blood. Its arms were too long, too human. The face it still haunts me was shaped like a wolf's. Yeah. The snout was filled with jagged, uneven teeth, too many teeth. And each finger was long, clawed, and tipped in thick black nails. Oh, God! I wanted to scream, to run, to do anything. It just stared at me. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then, it stood up. Not like an animal rising to all fours, but like a man getting up from a crouch. Effortless, upright. And when it did, this thing was at least 8 feet tall when fully erect. It towered over the deer, over my gear pack I'd dropped near the trail. I backed up slowly, my light still trained on it. It didn't charge, just stared. Then it bolted into the woods. On 2 legs. That's when the fear really hit me. I sprinted back to my tent, tore it down in minutes. Stuffed everything into my pack with no order, didn't care what got left behind. I didn't eat. I didn't drink. I didn't even think. I just moved. I hit the trail and headed north, not stopping for almost 7 straight miles until the sun was coming up over the ridgeline. I don't know how I kept my pace or where the energy came from. I didn't stop, not even to piss. I made it to a roadside near US 421 and flagged down the first pickup I saw. The old man driving didn't ask many questions, just handed me a bottle of water and dropped me off in Elizabethton, Tennessee. I checked into a motel and stayed there for 2 nights. Never told anyone what I saw. But I started digging, reading. Local legends, native stories. I remember one account from the Cherokee. Something about a creature called the Wahila, a giant wolf-like spirit that walked like a man, a harbinger of death. Other names popped up too. The Shunka Warakin, and then, more recently, folks started calling it the Dogman. I'd never believed in that kind of stuff before. But the more I read, the more it lined up with what I saw. There have been stories going back, generations of things seen in those woods, people hearing claws scraping on their tents, waking to glowing eyes outside. Some hikers go missing and never turn up. The woods take them. Or something in the woods does. I never went back to that section. Haven't hiked more than a few miles past Damascus since. And even then, I stick to well-traveled areas. I keep people close. The Appalachian Trail is a sacred thing to many of us. Beautiful, wild, a place to find yourself. But there are corners of it, deep in the woods, where old things still linger. It was June 2nd of 2015. It was the last time I ever saw my friend, Morgan Heimer. Morgan wasn't just a friend, he was my brother in every way but blood. We met while guiding separate tours in the Appalachian Mountains back in 2012. Over the years, we bonded over a shared love for the brutal beauty of the place. He was a big guy, tall and solid. He had this easy smile that disarmed tourists and calmed first-time hikers who didn't realize how unforgiving the Colorado River could be. Morgan lived for that river. He could name every bend, every rapid, every ancient petroglyph. If you ever got lost out there, you wanted Morgan with you. That summer, he was leading a 6-day hike through the Appalachian Mountains with a group of college kids and 2 other guides, Jenna Hartley and Damon Cruz. I was scheduled to link up with them on the last day to assist with the climb out. That day never came. On June 2N, the group stopped at a relatively calm section of the Colorado River. Morgan always chose that spot. It was his favorite. He liked to let his groups cool off, splash around, laugh, feel like kids again. Jenna later told me Morgan was standing on the shore, chatting with a few of the kids about the surrounding flora, brittlebush, mesquite, maybe some coyote melon vines nearby. Then he vanished. No splash, no shout. 1 minute he was there, the next gone. Nobody panicked. They assumed he went off to pee or scout the next campsite. But 10 minutes turned into 30. 30 into an hour. They fanned out. Damon ran upriver. Jenna checked the narrow crevices leading into the shadowed cliffs. No one found anything. Not a footprint. Not a broken branch. Not even the sound of someone moving through the brush. By sunset, reality sank its teeth into their spines. Jenna activated her emergency beacon. When I got the call that night, I thought it was a mistake. Morgan was invincible. Morgan didn't just know the deep woods. He wouldn't get lost. He wouldn't vanish. I joined the search team the next morning. We scoured 10 square miles. Helicopters sliced through the heat, shimmering air. Dogs sniffed every rock and patch of scrub. Rangers combed the area with maps and radios, calling Morgan's name. We found one thing, his boots, floating downstream like abandoned shells. Clean, untouched. No blood, just bobbing there. Everyone clung to their own theory. Maybe he was swept away. Maybe he fell into a crevice. Maybe he hit his head and wandered off delirious. But those theories didn't hold. Not with Morgan. He knew better. He trained for this. He would have never left his boots behind unless he meant to. Some of the locals whispered about the spirits. They said the place was alive, that it remembered, and sometimes it took people it wanted to keep. Superstition, maybe. But out there, under the unblinking stare of desert sky, it doesn't feel so silly. The woods has taken many. Some return. Most don't. I kept searching long after the others gave up. A week became a month. I stopped sleeping. I mapped every ghost trail, every hidden ravine. But nothing. His parents came out once. They stood on the edge of that river, staring at the place where their son became a story. I remember his mom's face, weathered by grief, her eyes scanning the rocks like she could will him to reappear. She handed me a photo of Morgan as a boy grinning in a scout uniform, holding a fishing pole. I still carry that picture in my pack. 10 years have passed. I still guide hikes out there. Morgan Heimer is still missing. His disappearance became a mystery. I still call his name in those woods, just in case he's listening. I'm Michael Thompson, always been Michael to most folks. I was 42 when this happened. Seasoned hunter, woodsman, hiker. It was mid-July, 2013. I'd planned a week alone, deep woods of Georgia, some lesser-known trails of the forest. I picked that area because it's remote, deep in the watershed, miles from any marked shelter, far from tourists. I wanted solitude, wanted to hunt and fish, unpack my mind. First night there, about 10 miles in, I stumbled onto a makeshift campsite in a hollow just off the trail, a small green dome tent, sleeping bag half pulled out, pack lying open with food strewn around. It was messed up, like someone or something had torn through it in a hurry. No tracks. I paused, muscles tensing. I left it. Didn't touch anything. Something felt off. But I chalked it up to another hiker, messed up by a bear. I hiked on. I up camp another mile deeper, at a clear stretch by the creek, near a fallen hemlock log. The water trickled constant. The forest, dark but peaceful. 7 days later, I circled back to that same hollow. I wanted to see if it was cleared, curious. By dusk, I was back, felt a twist in my shoulders when I realized the same torn-up campsite was still there. Worse, the smell hit me before I saw anything. Rank, metallic, the stink of death mixed with rot. The ground was bone dry. I could see no footprints, but the litter looked fresh. Someone had been here recently. I felt like I'd walked into a trap. By that time, I'd learned not to ignore instincts. I set up camp, maybe a half-mile away, uphill, on high ground, but kept one eye on the hollow. I cooked supper, sat quiet. That night, around midnight, I woke. The stink was stronger, warping my stomach, cloying. I rolled onto my cot, lied still. I froze when I realized I heard nothing but my own breathing and water. Then, a snap. A weight shifting outside the hollow, maybe 100 yards off. My heart thundered. I'm a hunter. I know sounds. But this was slow, deliberate. It wasn't deer stepping on sticks. It was purposeful. It wandered in those woods, searching. My blade was across my chest. I swallowed. Then another snap. Then silence. I lay motionless, eyes wide in the dark, listening, the knot in my guts tightening. Around 2 a.m., something moved. Leaves fluttered downhill. Then a noise, unlike any animal. A low, guttural whoop. Close. Maybe 30 yards. And I swear my skin crawled. My flashlight was in my pack. I debated, didn't want to scare it, if it was human. But this thing wasn't. I grabbed my road flare, not a gun, but it's meant to scare off predators, light up a forest if it went bad. The whoop came again, different. Slower, deeper, like something large stomping in root and rock. I unzipped the tent and popped the flare. The flare flared, too burning hot inside. Seconds I plopped it down between the tent and my pack. The light flared red and white in my eyes. I heard something move twigs, then leaves. The flare guttered toward the creek, half burned. My blood hammered. Then just at the edge of glow, I saw it. Too tall, too black. The shape filled my sight, massive shoulders sloping to long, sinewy arms. Towering well over 10 feet, solid as a standing tree. I could see it breathe. I whisper, shouted, "Fuck, go away." I mean, come on. The thing knew I was there. It stood inches from the tent. I could smell it, Wild musk, death, wet fur, something ancient. My bones shook, heart pounding. I wanted to snap the flare at it. I almost did, but I didn't. It's hard to light a flare fast when you're certain something non-human is pressing a finger against your back. It stayed. For a minute of hell, my vision flickered as the flare dimmed. I saw those shoulders sway, heard a last low grunt. Then the shape turned and disappeared. I flung the tent open, snatched my pack, and ran. I know those woods knew paths, roots, rocks, but in that moment, I didn't give a damn how I ran. I busted downhill, hit the trail, ran. I didn't even know exactly where I was heading. Just out. My knees screamed. I ran for nearly 5 miles, in the dark, but I didn't stop. Not until I see the faded Chevy pickup, and it stopped when I saluted the headlights. The driver saw me bleary-eyed, panting, looking like I'd come from hell. I don't believe in monsters, but I believe in warnings. And I believe some beasts are real stranger than fear. And even if you don't see them, they see you. That's my story. I swear it's raw, and it still lives with me. The woods are bigger and older than we are. I can't explain it. I just know whatever stalked me that night is out there, still in the deeper section of Appalachian mountains, waiting for another soul. Stay safe, stay smart. The next one might not be as lucky. My name's Eli Mercer. Back then, I was 28 years old, working as a freelance carpenter in Asheville, North Carolina. I had just ended a 5-year relationship that left me hollowed out, and the only thing that seemed to help was getting lost in the wild. That helped me feel whole again, or at least less broken. That summer, I started spending long weekends hiking solo in the Appalachian backcountry, especially deep in the lesser-known pockets of the Great Smoky Mountains. There's a stretch of trail about 40 miles northeast of Gatlinburg. It's rarely visited. Rougher terrain, but I'd been there a few times and thought I knew it well enough. The day I parked my truck at the pull-off near an old logging road and hiked in with nothing but my pack, a filtered water bottle, some jerky, and my journal. I wasn't planning an overnight, just a long, meditative hike to clear my head. I'd followed a narrow, overgrown deer path that eventually wound along a creek I'd walked before. It's a beautiful stretch, moss-covered rocks. I hiked about 4 or 5 miles in, crossed a fallen log bridge I remembered from earlier trips, and came upon the wide, open clearing I always liked to stop at. Only this time there was something new. A cabin. Old. Real old. Not a collapsed ruin. Not some hunter's shack. This thing looked lived in weathered timber walls, a rusted stovepipe poking out of the roof. It sat there like it had always been there, nestled in the middle of the clearing. And yet, I swear on everything I love there, had never been a cabin there. I stood at the edge of the clearing, stunned, heart beating just a little too hard. I must stared at that cabin for a solid 5 minutes, trying to make sense of it. Maybe I'd somehow wandered off into a different meadow. But no, the giant pine stump near the western edge, the rock outcrop that looked like a bear's head, I knew those landmarks. This was the same place. So where the hell did this cabin come from? Curiosity got the better of me. I stepped into the clearing, eyes scanning everything like my brain was trying to stitch together a rational explanation. Then I saw them. A man and a girl. The man was maybe in his late 40s or early 50s, heavy beard, sun-worn face, wearing what looked like buckskin trousers with suspenders and a rough wool shirt. The girl couldn't have been older than 10, wore a long linen dress, blue with a white apron. She was sitting in the grass, playing with a rag doll. There were no signs, no tourists, no informational plaques. Just them, going about their lives. At first, they didn't even notice me. I cleared my throat, gave a little wave. "Hey there," I called out. Nothing. The man kept tending to a little garden patch beside the cabin. The girl was humming to herself, whispering something to her doll. I stepped closer. "Hello? You all right?" Still, nothing. It was like I didn't exist. I started to wonder maybe I was looking at ghosts, a reenactment caught in some kind of residual haunting. I felt an eerie chill settle over me, the kind that makes the hairs on your neck stand up. Then the girl looked up, locked eyes with me. Her expression changed in an instant confusion, then fear. "Papa!" she shrieked, dropping her doll. The man turned toward me fast, faster than I'd expected. His face twisted into something raw and panicked. He shouted something harsh and guttural, some language I didn't recognize. It wasn't English. It was like old German, maybe, or something much older. The kind of words that carry a weight beyond meaning. The girl ran behind him, eyes peeking out from behind his legs. I froze, hands up, and said, "I don't mean any harm. Just passing through." I didn't know anyone lived out here. But he just kept yelling. His voice sounded angry, but also scared, like I was some kind of monster to him. He reached for something near the door, maybe a tool, maybe a weapon, and that's when I started backing up. And then she screamed again. Only this time, it wasn't at me. She pointed past me, back toward the tree line. I turned and felt my blood turn to ice. A black bear, massive, easily 600 pounds, had just stepped into the meadow. It didn't look curious. It looked agitated. Its mouth opened in a soundless roar, teeth glinting, head low, eyes locked right on me. I just ran. My boots pounded the earth, crashing through ferns and underbrush. I didn't stop to check if the bear was following. I didn't care where I was going, only that I was getting away. My backpack snagged and tore. I tripped over roots, staggered, kept running until my lungs burned and my vision blurred. When I finally collapsed, heart hammering, gasping for air, I realized I'd only gone maybe half a mile, and everything was gone. Oh my God, no cabin, no bear, even no little girl. I climbed a boulder to try and get a better look. The clearing was gone, just a tangle of trees and dense brush. It was like the whole scene had been erased from reality. I searched for hours. Nothing looked familiar. By nightfall, I was completely lost. My compass spun uselessly, and even the stars seemed off. I built a fire, more for comfort than warmth, and spent the night trying to make sense of what had happened. The next day, I stumbled across a trail marker I didn't recognize. I followed it aimlessly for hours, until I was finally found by a couple of backpackers who gave me water and radioed in help. By the time the rangers got to me, I was dehydrated, scratched up, and on the edge of heat exhaustion. They flew me out on a chopper. I told them I'd gotten turned around, didn't mention the cabin, or the people, or the bear. Who the hell would believe me? But it's haunted me ever since. I've spent years looking through historical records, maps, old homestead registries, trying to find some proof that a cabin ever stood in that clearing. Nothing. Some days, I tell myself, maybe it was a hallucination. Maybe I got too hot, too tired. Maybe I imagined it. But other days, I remember the way the girl looked at me. Not like I was a hallucination. I don't know what happened that day in the deep woods. I don't know if I slipped into the past or brushed against some tear in time. Maybe I stepped into someone else's dream. But I do know one thing. I never hiked that trail again.